The Radio Memories Network is brought to you in part by Liberated Syndication, podcast publishing made easy, libsyn.com. That's libsyn.com.
Welcome to the Old Time Radio Network detective stories, continuing America's love affair with private eyes. We now go back to the early days of radio and our imaginations with our feature presentation.
Part 3, The Mink Coat.
Philip Odell, a young Irishman who's been working as an American agent, is on his way home to Dublin when he meets Heather McMara in London. She tells him that her brother Ricky has been drowned and that she suspects murder. She asks Odell to help her investigate. Somewhat reluctantly, he agrees. The following night, they find the body of Marilyn Peters, Ricky's girlfriend, and this decides Odell that the time has come to make a report to the police. He goes to Scotland Yard.
Oh, if you'll wait here, Mr. Odell, the inspector will be up in a minute. He's down in the radio room.
Thanks.
It's nice to see you again, but it's a bit late for making a social call, isn't it? After midnight, you know.
This isn't a social call, Sergeant Layton.
Oh, it wouldn't be another case of international espionage, would it?
Sorry, only a double killing job.
Ah, that. Well, not that it makes any difference to me nowadays. If someone had pinched the House of Commons, I wouldn't get to work on it.
How do you mean?
Well, the inspector does all the work round here. All the brain work, that is. Oh, we've got a new inspector, by the way. A young chap by the name of Rigby. Simon Rigby.
Good man?
College boy.
Oh, I see.
Mr. Odell?
Yes.
I'm Inspector Rigby. You wanted to see me about this McMara case?
That's right.
Well, please sit down.
Thank you.
All right, Sergeant Layton, you can go.
Thank you, sir.
You must be very agitated, Mr. Odell.
Agitated?
Calling at Scotland Yard at this late hour.
Oh, I see. Well, crime like history is often made at night, isn't it?
Perhaps they're the same thing. Crime and history. It depends on your viewpoint. Alexander, Genghis Khan, Napoleon, all history makers, all criminals. Well, what about Ricky McMara?
He was found in the Thames on Thursday.
I know. Cause of death, drowning.
No, murder.
Murder?
Plain, straightforward, bloody murder.
Can you prove it?
I think so. Last night I went to see his girlfriend, a girl called Marilyn Peters. She didn't tell me very much. She was upset, but this morning she came to my hotel and said she was being watched. And she was plenty scared. She had reason. A little less than an hour ago, I had to break down the door of her room. She'd been strangled.
And you think this proves McMara was murdered?
Don't you?
There might be other explanations?
Oh, sure. She might have been knocked off by someone she beat to the Antarctic, or a Sputnik might have lighted on her. Anything might have happened, but for my money, she was rubbed out by the person who killed McMara.
And do you know who that person is?
Well, I can give you a lead. Somewhere in this fog, there's a dame in a mink coat who could tell you plenty about these two killings. She's in her early 30s. She's got big blue peepers and jet black hair. She drives a big car that looks like Buckingham Palace on wheels. You find her, and you may have the murderer.
How do you come to be mixed up in this, Mr. Odell?
I'm a friend of McMara's sister, Heather. She asked me to make some inquiries.
I see.
Yes, and there's a whole lot more to see. This is no backstreet mix-up, Inspector. A couple of eminent citizens are involved. Christopher Hampton, the racehorse owner, and Martin Sowerby, the newspaper editor. Murder in this case moves on thick pile carpet.
Would you care to write out a statement?
Sure. Give me some paper and I'll do it right now.
No, not now. Go home and sleep on it. Come back here at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Look, Inspector, things are moving fast. There isn't time for anyone to sleep on anything. There isn't any time for anyone to sleep.
Do as I say, Mr. Odell. You'll find it'll work out better.
Okay.
This girl, Marilyn Peters, where's her body now?
In a rooming joint in South Kensington, Sydney Street. There's a constable outside the house. I reported to the local station before I came around here.
Good. I'll go along there right away.
Don't you want me to come with you?
No, I don't think so.
I found the body, remember?
I shan't forget that. I shall see you here at 10, then.
Surely.
Oh, there's one other thing, Mr. Odell.
Hmm?
Keep out.
What do you mean?
I can handle this case without the assistance of an amateur.
Okay, driver. Take us along the embankment, will you?
Any particular part of it?
No, just cruise up and down. I want to think.
Think. With a pretty girl like that in the back?
I'd like to brain the guy who started the idea that all cabmen have to be comics.
Well, did you report it?
Yes.
What did they say?
Nothing.
What's the matter? You sound angry.
I am angry, Angel. Boiling, bubbling, blazing angry. I could eat the buttons off this seat.
What happened? Tell me.
Well, there's a new guy in charge of the homicide squad, or whatever they call it in Scotland Yard. A guy by the name of Rigby. A charming character if you happen to like a man with a voice like crackling ice. He told me to keep out. Called me an amateur. Me, an amateur. I was chasing thugs and brigands while he was still chasing a hoop.
Oh, have a cigarette and calm down.
Angel, why is it your cigarettes always taste of perfume?
I work in the perfumery department, remember?
Couldn't manage to work for a distillery for a change, could you?
Oh, the fog's lifting. Oh, doesn't the river look lovely at night? Oh, tell the taxi driver to stop. I'd like to sit here and look at it for a bit.
Driver, stop here, will you? The lady wants to look at the river.
Don't you two ever go to bed?
I know a good answer to that, but in the interest of public decency, I won't utter it.
Hello, Leighton. Everything all right?
Yes, Inspector. Doctor's just finishing his examination.
Would you like to look, Inspector Rigby?
Oh. Thanks, Doctor.
As competent a piece of strangulation as I've ever seen.
She didn't put up much of a struggle by the look of it.
No. External injuries. Clothes aren't even disarranged.
Odd.
I can't say for certain yet, but my guess is that she died from heart failure.
You mean she was dead while he was strangling her?
Yes. She may have died of fright when he first touched her. Do you want me any more, Inspector?
No, thanks.
Oh, I'd put the time of death between 9:30 and 10:30.
See who that is, Sergeant?
Yes, sir. No. It's the landlady, Inspector, Mrs. Cantaloupe.
Oh, all right, let her in.
Come in, will you?
Well, I'll be off to bed then. Good night, Inspector.
Good night, Doctor. Now, Mrs. Cantaloupe, what do you want?
Is it true she was murdered, Inspector?
Why do you want to know?
Oh, this is my house, sir. Letting rooms is my livelihood. And why'd she have to go and get killed in my house?
Oh, be quiet, woman.
Oh, yes, but it's my room.
When did you last see this girl?
Oh, this evening. She came in at about 9:15. I know it was then because I was listening to a program on the wireless.
Did she go straight to her room?
Yes, she did.
Anybody call on her?
Yes.
Who was it?
A woman in a mink coat.
Ah. How long did she stay?
I don't rightly know. She let herself out. I heard the door go about 10:15. I know that's right because I was winding up the clock.
When did Mr. Odell come?
About 5 minutes later.
20 past.
Yes. He came with Miss McMara. She's Mr. Ricky's sister. Mr. Ricky and Miss Peters were going together, you know.
I know. And what did Mr. Odell say?
Oh, he asked me a lot of questions. He's always asking questions, says he's a detective.
Then he found this door was locked and broke in, is that right?
Yes.
Did you go in with him?
Oh, no. He told me and Miss McMara to stay outside in the hall. He came in here and closed the door after him, and then he came out and said Miss Peters was dead.
How long was he in here?
Oh, about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right, Mrs. Cantaloupe, that'll be all.
Oh, if you could keep it out of the papers, sir. I've got a bit of money put by.
Get out!
Yes.
Have the photographic people been, Leighton?
Yes, sir.
Fingerprints?
Yes, he got 2 good sets on that tumbler beside the bed. One of hers, of course. They're printing the other set.
Good, I'll see them in the morning. All right, Leighton, you take over here. I'm going back to the yard.
Very good, sir.
Oh, and Leighton.
Yes, sir?
Your friend Odell is coming at 10. Arrange to get his fingerprints, will you?
Well, Angel, have you seen enough of this river?
Yes. Oh, I'm getting a bit sleepy.
Good. My arm's are way ahead of you. It's been asleep for half an hour. Now we'll get a move on. I've been thinking.
Where are we going?
Milton House.
But isn't that where Christopher Hampton lives?
It is.
What? Are you going to call on him?
I am.
This hour? It's nearly 1 o'clock in the morning.
Mr. Hampton's got late hours written all over his face.
But didn't Inspector Rigby tell you to lay off?
He did. But who ever heard of an Irishman obeying an order? Driver, Milton House, Ryder Street.
Good. I'm sick of looking at this river.
Is that Milton House?
Yes. Now, Hampton's flat's on the 3rd floor. Do you see any lights?
No, not one. He must have gone bye-byes after all.
I doubt it. Let's take a peek around the back. There's an alleyway just up here. Yes, I thought so. There is a light. Now, let's see. Good, that fire escape connects with the balcony outside his window.
You're not going in that way, are you?
I am.
What's the matter with the front door?
Nothing, except it'll go bang in my face. Now, listen, Angel. There's something I want you to do. Take a cab and go down to the Press Club.
Where's that?
It's just off Fleet Street. The driver will know it. Ask for a guy called David Vintner.
David Vintner?
He's a newspaper man. He's usually in the club at this time. Tell him you're a friend of mine. And ask him to get you some dope on Martin Sowerby. Where he lives, where he came from, any dirt on him, that sort of stuff.
Okay. Well, here I go. Heather McMara, girl detective.
Hey.
What?
Kiss me.
No, I...
Do as I say.
Oh.
That's better. We'd pass for a courting couple anywhere, provided no one saw the expression on your face.
Stop it, Philip. Let me go.
We're being watched. There's someone in that doorway over there.
I can't see anyone.
Just the same, there's someone there. Now keep still.
My right foot's gone to sleep.
It's all right. He's moving away now.
Who could it be?
I don't know. I don't like it. When I'm being tailed, I'd like to know why.
It might be a peeping Tom.
Don't peeping Toms usually stick around the parks?
Not always.
Of course, it would be worth any peeping Tom's while to follow you off the beaten track, Angel.
Now you're getting maudlin. He's gone now. What do we do?
You get down to the Press Club, and I'll go up that fire escape.
Goodbye, Philip. Take care of yourself.
I went up that fire escape and through the French windows that gave onto Christopher Hampton's room. He was sitting in a big saddle-back chair wearing a dressing gown which looked like a painter's palette gone mad. He looked up, went as pale as a man with his coloring ever could, and said...
Oh, the devil! Oh, it's you.
Forgive my intruding on you like this, Mr. Hampton, but I figured your man Parkin would have said you were out if I'd come to the front door.
You're not such a bad detective after all, Mr. Odell. That's exactly what he would have done.
Handy, that fire escape.
Very. I must get it taken away. Found any more murders since I saw you last?
Only one.
One in 24 hours? That's not very good going, is it?
Well, it's enough to keep body and soul together if you work Sundays. Where were you between 9 and 10 this evening?
On the way back from Newmarket?
You didn't go by way of Sydney Street, South Kensington, did you?
No. Why do you ask?
A girl called Marilyn Peters was strangled there this evening.
Really? How unpleasant.
There was. Did you have a nice day in Newmarket?
Very, thank you.
Horses all right?
Perfectly. Would you care for a drink?
I could care for one. Passionately.
Brandy, perhaps?
Brandy, certainly.
Good. I hate to say I told you so, Mr. Odell.
Which means you're going to do it.
I did warn you that the unpleasant things happen in a London fog. Don't you remember?
I remembered it very clearly when I broke down that door and saw that girl lying strangled on her bed.
Here's your drink.
Oh, thank you. Aren't you joining me?
No, I have to take my medicine in a moment.
Oh, yes, of course. The old nerve tonic. How are the nerves coming along?
Oh, quite well, thank you.
They weren't affected by that nasty business in Marilyn Peters' room, were they?
What are you talking about?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I was just trying to get under your guard, but that isn't easy, I see. Cheers.
Cheers. Cigarette?
Thank you. Why were you paying Ricky McMara hush money?
Brandy all right?
First rate. I asked you a question.
Who pays you to ask these questions?
No one. I do it for love.
Of humanity?
No, of a good time. I get one when this case is wound up. I hope.
How'd you like to be paid for a change?
By you?
By me.
Mr. Hampton, I'm not one of these unworldly types that despises dough. I'm very attached to it. But just the same, I prefer it to be fairly clean. Sorry.
This is clean.
What do you want me to do?
Find out who's blackmailing me.
I thought that finished when McMara died.
It didn't. There's someone behind McMara.
What makes you think I could help you?
I like the way you go to work. You're not easily shaken off. You're intelligent, and above all, you're honest. Will you do it?
All right.
Good. I'll write a check.
Oh, that's all right. I'll present the bill when the job's done. I'm not a hand-to-mouth organization yet. That's coming when Inspector Rigby gets me on Dartmoor.
I'd rather pay now. Let's call it a retainer. Here you are. How's this?
But I can't take this.
Why not?
It's too much. It's for £300.
You can always tear it up if you want to back out.
Okay. Now, tell me something more about this blackmail. What's behind it?
It's a long story.
That's all right. There's still plenty left in the brandy bottle.
Oh, help yourself.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm listening.
15 years ago, a man called George Maybrick hanged himself in one of my stables at Rudge.
Rudge? I thought your stables were at Newmarket.
They are now. In those days, I had them in Rudge. My family comes from there. Rudge is in the north, near Lancaster, you know.
I didn't know. You know, this is nice brandy.
Maybrick was my racing manager. Young, keen, efficient. But he had one serious weakness.
Drink?
No. Women.
Oh, dear. We all have our weaknesses, haven't we?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, Maybrick's weakness was expensive. He stole money from me. I found out and discharged him. That night, he hanged himself.
Unpleasant.
Yes, it was made additionally unpleasant by a crop of rumors that sprang up.
Rumors about the way he died?
Yes. You see, on the day of his death, a much-fancied horse of mine ran badly in an important race. I'd backed another horse, the winner. This leaked out, and people said I'd had my own horse pulled.
And had you?
No, I had not.
Oh. Well,
Well, when Maybrick hanged himself that same night, the rumor went round that I'd killed him to keep his mouth shut about how my horse had been pulled. Of course, it was quite absurd, and a verdict of suicide was brought in at the inquest. But that didn't stop the rumors. And so I left the district to move my stables to Newmarket.
where does the blackmail come in?
I'm coming to that. About 3 months ago, Ricky McMara came to see me and said a letter had come into his possession. A letter I'd written to Maybrick a few days before he died. It contained some very violent language. In fact, I threatened to kill him.
Was the letter genuine?
I'm afraid so.
Why did you threaten to kill Maybrick?
It was over a girl called Kitty Stapleton, a Rudge girl, and very lovely. I was interested in her, but there were complications.
You mean she preferred Maybrick?
Well, yes.
So you got mad and wrote Maybrick a letter telling him you'd do him in if he didn't lay off. Is that right?
Yes. Somehow McMara got hold of this letter 15 years later. He wanted money. I paid him. I thought it might be very difficult to explain that letter. At first, McMara was satisfied with the money I gave him. But then, one day, he came and said he wanted me to pull the horse I'd entered in the Manchester November Handicap, to dope it. He was particularly insistent that I should dope it.
Why?
Obviously, he wanted to get me warned off. There bound to be an inquiry, and I'd be sunk. He wanted to ruin me, you see.
But surely even McMara had heard the story of the goose and the golden eggs.
Oh, quite. So when he did that, I knew he wasn't working alone. I knew there was someone behind him, someone who didn't want my money, but my ruin.
I see. Well, it makes sense. Have you any idea who that someone might be?
Well, no.
No clue of any kind? I'll need a bit more than this before I can set to work, Mr. Hampton.
Well, this might help. Last night I got a telephone call. What is it, Parkin?
The telephone, sir.
I can't come. I'm busy. Tell them to ring in the morning.
I think you'd better come, sir.
Why?
It's the lady, sir.
Oh, yes. You'll have to excuse me, Mr. Odell. I'll be back in a moment.
But he wasn't back in a moment. I waited an hour in that room, a very long hour, and it wasn't a room you could relax in, although I admit there was plenty of brandy. Finally, I got bored with it and went out into the hall. Parkin, the manservant, was standing there. He gave me that dead look of his and said,
"Did you want something, Mr. Odell?"
"Yes, Mr. Hampton."
"He's gone to bed."
"But he told me to wait."
"He asked me to say he was sorry, sir, but he'd see you tomorrow."
"Well, why didn't you tell me that before?"
"I was detained."
"I see. Well, there doesn't seem anything left for me but to go, does there?"
"No, Mr. Odell, there doesn't."
"Who pays your wages, Parkin?"
"My wages, sir."
"Or do you call it your stipend?"
"Mr. Hampton pays me. Why do you ask?"
"I wondered if someone else paid you to shut him up when he was on the point of giving something away, opening his mouth too wide, you know."
"I don't think I understand you, sir."
Never mind. Sometimes I don't think I understand myself. "Oh, Parkin."
"Yes, sir?"
"Do you know a woman who wears a mink coat, in her early 30s, dark, worth looking at, drives a big car?"
"No, Mr. Odell, I don't."
"As if you'd tell me." Well, I came down into the street and walked up into Piccadilly. Then I wandered along slowly, trying to get things straightened out in my mind. There was no sign of the man in the alleyway, whoever he was. I must have wandered a long time, because when I next took any interest in my surroundings, I was away down near Westminster Bridge, with the big yellow face of Big Ben telling me it was 1:30 in the morning, and time for Heather to have got back from Fleet Street. So I ducked into a telephone kiosk to call her.
Hello?
Heather?
Is that you, Philip?
It is. Did you get the dope?
I did.
Good girl.
Martin Sowerby began his career on a provincial weekly in Lancashire. I've got the name of the town written down. Hold on a minute and I'll get it.
It doesn't matter. I think I know the name. Is it Rudge?
Yes. How did you know?
And did he leave Rudge 15 years ago?
Yes.
In a hurry?
Yes, but how on earth did you...
Fine. It's all fitting together like a dressed-up dowager. Heather, you're wonderful. Where does Sowerby live?
In Hampstead. Thackeray Lodge. That's in Heath Grove.
Bless you, Angel. I'll call you in the morning.
But what are you going to do now?
I'm going to Thackeray Lodge.
At this hour?
Well, this may be the last chance I'll get. Remember, I have a date at the Yard at 10. And if I'm late, Rigby might give me a pressing invitation to stay a year or two. Bye, Angel.
This is it, sir. Heath Grove.
Thanks.
What number did you want?
It doesn't matter. I'll walk from here.
It's a long road, you know.
I'm a long walker. How much do I owe you?
30 bob.
That's very generous, isn't it? Generous to you.
Oh, it's very late, sir. I won't get another fare up here.
Isn't Hampstead Heath the place where the highwaymen used to hang out?
I believe so, sir.
Times haven't changed much, have they? Well, here's 35 bob. Give Black Bess a feed of hay. The driver was right. Heath Grove was a long road. It was also very full of darkness and fog. The fog had come down again. I'd gone a couple of 100 yards when I heard a woman's voice. It was the kind of voice the sirens must have used to lure those impressionable sailors onto the rocks.
Mr. Odell,
Yes? Who are you?
turn your torch to the right and you'll see.
Well,
Recognize me?
Ah, the mink coat.
Charming description. The mink coat. It makes me sound rare and exclusive. I like it.
Oh, I'm glad you like it.
Turn the torch on your own face now.
Why?
I want to see what you look like. I haven't had an opportunity to see you properly yet.
You don't give yourself much of a chance, do you? Rushing at me in that big car.
Turn the torch, Mr. Odell. You've got a good face. There's character there. And humor. I approve of it. Put the torch out.
Can't I look at you some more? I'd like to.
Put it out.
Certainly. Did my eyes deceive me, or did I really see someone move right behind you?
You did.
Something big?
Something very big. His name is Jay. He used to be a prize fighter.
Really?
A good one.
Oh, I'm sure. You only have things about you that are good, don't you? Good minks, good cars, good prize fighters. You've got style, Miss, or is it Mrs.?
Don't you know?
No, I've always talked to myself about you as mink coat.
Go on doing that, Mr. Odell. It'll be simpler.
Oh, I'm glad we're going to have something simple. It'll make a nice change. Things have been much too complicated to date. I'm almost out of breath keeping up with them.
You've done very well. Too well.
Well, I wouldn't say that. There's still a lot I don't know. Where you fit in, for instance. You've got some connection with McMara's death and with Marilyn Peters. That I do know.
Do you?
You've also got some connection with the blackmailing of Christopher Hampton.
How do you know that?
That mink coat was a guess. Now, what about Martin Sorrowby? Where does he tie in?
Try another guess.
Oh, I hate guessing. It's so unprofessional. I was on my way to see Sorrowby when you stopped me.
I know.
Why did you stop me, by the way?
I wanted to talk to you.
Could you wait until I've seen Sorrowby?
Sorry. Well, late as it is.
Oh, we're going somewhere then? Hmm?
We are. We're going for a drive.
In your big car?
In my big car.
Sorry. I don't like that car. It has nasty habits. I've got big bruises all down one side to prove it.
You'd better come, Mr. Odell.
No, thanks. I'm going to see Sorrowby.
Jay.
Now, look, we don't have to have any rough stuff, do we? After all, we're...
All right, Jay. Put him in the back.
That was The Mink Coat, the third episode of Lady in a Fog, a serial in 8 parts by Lester Powell, with Robert Beatty as Philip Odell and Sheila Manahan as Heather McMara. The part of Christopher Hampton was played by James Thomason, Inspector Rigby by Edward Jewsbury, Sergeant Layton by Geoffrey Siegel, and The Lady in Mink by Mary Wimbush. Other parts were played by members of the BBC Drama Repertory Company. Production by Martin C. Webster.